I want to ask you about Omos. I felt like we've all heard as longtime WWE fans, hey, this guy passes Vince's airport test. Have you heard about Vince and the airport test? What have you heard as somebody who worked inside the tent?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That was a legit thing. I hadn't heard it. I don't know if I've heard it called airport test, but that's exactly what it is. Vince wanted guys when you walked around and look at that guy, goes, oh my God, look at that guy. That he looks like something different. The way the old guys drew money back in the day before television was they would show up to a town and they'd do appearances. And then a lot of times they do some strength moves and things like that. And they do like a small training camp. People come down and go, oh my God, I can't do none of this. I mean, look at these guys. Look how big these guys are. Look how strong these guys are. And that's where that's come from a lot in our business, was you wanted the guy walking around that, Thez famously, now this is among wrestling groups, would walk through the box office and through the arena to the dressing room because he wanted people to see the world champion had walked into the building because he looked so great in his nice suit and he was a big, good-looking guy. But that was the airport test was that. It was Vince wanted people that would walk through an airport and people would turn their head to look and they go, who is that? Oh, that's the WWE champion. And so, yeah, that was a legitimate thing.
Well, I'm asking because I wonder what is the future for a guy like Omos? If we know that, Vince used to book what a lot of people referred to inside the industry as the land of the giants. And he was looking for these guys who looked larger than life walking through an airport. But I notice with this current WWE regime, specifically Triple H, Braun Strowman's not there. Omos has not been featured on TV. Do you think the modern taste stylings of the powers that be inside of WWE creative right now, for whatever reason, focus on a different style of wrestling than maybe what Vince preferred? Do you think there's just been a paradigm shift in what the office likes relative to what Vince liked?
No, I think it's about availability is what I believe it is. I believe, almost got such good reports. And I listened to some of the reports this past weekend from people that heard them that mattered. And they raved about what he did in Japan. They're huge on Omos right now. So I think it's just about availability. I mean, you don't have that many giants that are that great, but I'm Braun Strowman I like a lot. I think he's one of them. And I'm throwing him in the category that's not great. He is one of the great ones. But you don't have, a guy like Big Show comes along. How many other giants came along during Big Show's reign? None. Right. I mean, you had Kane and Undertaker, but those weren't real giants. Those weren't giants. They were huge men. But they weren't like in the classification of giants. And you didn't have any. So it's not like you have 10 giants every generation. You have one usually. And so I think Omos is going to be the one that's in the generation coming up. I think they're very high on it, but I think it's about availability. I think they work with what they got. I think I think you prefer the big guys, but there's also this huge audience now that there wasn't an audience for women either 30 years ago to wrestle. And now their division is as big or bigger than the men's, and it's certainly equal or better than the men's. And so it's the same with the cruiserweights, and what we used to call cruiserweights. Now they're your guys that can fight because of weight levels in UFC that people realize, these guys are great fighters too. And that's changed a lot.
I really didn't think about availability, but you're right. I think you've hit the nail on the head. Now, even though it feels like you've got a bigger roster than ever, there is less and less time because there is such a push to make sure that there's more opportunities to feature the women, which is a good thing. I'm not opposed to that. I understand that 40% of your viewership base right now allegedly is female, and you got to hope that there's a lot of little girls who are going to buy a whole lot of little merch. So I love all that. I think that's great, but I do wonder, like, even I know you said a minute ago, well, in Big Show, there weren't any other giants. And in that era, you are correct. There weren't any other that made stars. But, man, they really forced a lot of opportunities just based on size. Guys like Heidenreich come to mind. Mm-hmm. Not picking on the guy, probably a great guy, probably a nice guy. But it feels like, hey, if you met a certain height standard, you were more than likely going to get an opportunity on TV. And what happens after that is kind of up to you. And I just don't know that that's the case anymore, because you got some of the biggest guys in the business right now not featured regularly on WWE TV. It's wild.
Yeah, and I think That's true. Very true under Vince. If you were a big guy, you got opportunities that little guys did not. There was no doubt about it. When Shawn and Brett came along, that was very unusual. But they really changed the paradigm of wrestling. During the Hogan era, you just pretty much had to be a monster, or you were in a tag team with somebody else that was your size and you did high flying stuff and had a bunch of bandanas and sold a bunch of merch. But you're talking about the women is right. You now have half the time. And that's a good thing, because now the women have filled, at least half the time. The men filled half the time. Whereas before, you had basically almost 100% of the show basically for the guys, and you would have women doing some things out there, but they didn't have their own division. Now that you do, this is why it's so important to have territories like Mexico, to have territories in different places where you can send guys, because you've got so much talent right now. And even though you have wrestling on every single night, you don't have that many shows for the amount of talent that you have. I mean, it's really a top-heavy roster right now as far as talent.
Let's talk about the main event this past weekend of Triple Mania. It was the best reviewed match on the night, according to the viewers over at cagematch.net. People love the four-way El Hijo de Vikingo, who got booed out of the building, even though he's a babyface. Picked up a win over Dominic Mysterio, Dragon Lee, and El Grande Americano. Let's start with the end and work backwards. How great is El Grande Americano in Mexico? You've seen this on WWE programming. John, you were in the building to see how the Mexican fans reacted to him live. What'd you think of El Grande Americano this past Saturday night?
He's fantastic. I mean, he speaks Spanish, obviously, as you would expect El Grande Americano to do. I told about the big fight that he had, boxer versus wrestler fight, when he had Julio Cesar Chavez in Tijuana in 1988 and beat him in 2 minutes and 14 seconds. It was one of the legendary matches in lucha history. That's when El Grande Americano really made a name for himself, after he had beaten Mascaras and Connect and all the guys. I think he's fantastic. That guy gets it. He came out singing La Cucaracha. It's just, I'm sitting there watching him going, there's somebody could jump this guy right now. It's just amazing what he's doing. I think El Grande Americano is absolutely fantastic and made for that Mexican audience.
Since we've been live this morning, WWE and AAA have put out a press release saying that Triple Mania has shattered records for viewership, gate, merchandise, and social engagement. They had a peak live viewing audience of 614,000. 4.3 million people so far have seen the entire show on YouTube. There's 19,691 fans in the building, and it was actually trending number one in the United States and Mexico. So there's a record 208 million views across all the different social media platforms. And as far as the gate, it is a record gate as well. So high fives all around, unless maybe you were Dominic Mysterio or a mystery man. By God, it was AJ Styles, of all people, showing up in AAA. It's a big star. It's a big reveal. And allegedly, Vikingo is actually going to be on Monday Night Raw tonight, along with Mystery Iguana. This feels like this AAA WWE partnership is checking a lot of boxes for a lot of fans. I mean, for people to be checking this out for the first time, this momentum, we're breaking records on the first one. This is probably what Dorian had in mind for a long time, don't you think?
100%. I was there when they talked to the group beforehand, and I don't want to. If somebody else gives that information, they can do that. I'm not going to about what all was said, but it was really well received by all of the Mexican talent, by the WWE talent, about what the future was going to be. WWE didn't come down there to have WWE versus AAA. They came down there to have AAA, and that's a big freaking difference, because I was doing commentary, so I want to make sure how the show was positioned. Was it WWE coming down to fight AAA, or was this just AAA? It was just AAA, and that's incredibly important. That's terrific foresight by these guys to come down there and maintain the culture and the heritage. And it's not about WWE talent that's coming down to show that they're better. It's WWE talent coming down to be part of AAA, and that's a huge different paradigm than what has happened so many times when you have companies working with other companies. It's pretty much, okay, this is the WWE guys versus the AAA guys. No, this is the WWE guys that are down there now as part of AAA, trying to make a name for themselves in AAA as a AAA combatant, not as a WWE person coming down there to fight AAA people. It's a huge difference. I think they're doing an incredible job with it.
SaveWithConrad.com.
My name is Rajiv. I'm in Sacramento, California. I came to Save with Conrad because I've heard Conrad talk about how he helps people all the time save money and the best route to go for getting some mortgages and finances done. And having heard so many different testimonials in the past, it made the most sense to go this route. We were in the market for a new house and we wanted to know what we could afford. So we spoke with Steve and then Diane to get through the pre-approval process to see what we could afford. And then once we were able to understand that aspect of it, that was when we were able to shop around for a house to get a mortgage through Save with Conrad. Everybody on the team was great. Everybody really explained everything fully to where it was more in like layman's terms to where I could understand it as someone not in the business or having shopped around for houses too many times. So being able to understand every step of the process and talking with everyone on the team about that was really, really helpful. And it made me feel really confident that I was going the right route. I would definitely recommend Save with Conrad to others. I know that sometimes people look at it and they go, oh, they're based in Alabama. What could they help me with? But I'm out here in California and they were able to square everything away and get things done really quickly, as opposed to sometimes even people out here don't move as quickly as the Save with Conrad team. So everything was really well done, really efficient, and I would definitely recommend Save with Conrad to others. My name is Rajiv. I'm in Sacramento, California, and I was able to get into my dream home with SaveWithConrad.com.
That's number 212-9 Equal Housing Lender. SaveWithConrad.com.